Good morning. This webinar offers closed captioning. To enable closed captioning, click on the live transcript button on the bottom of your screen and choose your preferred method. Welcome to the Chicago Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection webinar. Please note any website or email that I mentioned will be posted in the chat box. For those seeking business license assistance, you can visit the Small Business Center here at City Hall or call 312-74-GO-BIZ. Also, business license can be applied for or renewed online at chicagobusinessdirect.org. If you are a part of the BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program, you can get credit for joining this webinar by sending an email to bacpoutreach@cityofchicago.org. To learn more about this program, please visit chicago.gov/business education. This webinar is being recorded and will be available at youtube.com/Chicago BACP. We would like to encourage all attendees to ask questions. Please use the chat box to send your questions. There will be a Q&A session at the end of this presentation. At this time, I now turn this webinar over to Maureen for us to begin.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Stella. My name is Mary Ann Rigger. I am an associate staff attorney with the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection. I have been prosecuting consumer fraud for about 6 years now. I'm certainly not going to say that I've seen it all, but I have seen enough to be able to recognize the patterns that a lot of people fall victim to, especially during this time of year as we're going into the busiest shopping season of the year. So I wanted to put this presentation together to share with you what I've learned in these past 6 years. So if that sounds good to you, let's go ahead and get started. Before we really dive into it, I did just want to take a minute to highlight our amazing department. We are responsible for both licensing and regulating businesses. So on the licensing side, we have the Small Business Center and business consultants that are available to help people figure out what kind of business license they need, can answer questions about the process with zoning and things like that. We have our amazing outreach team that does small business expos throughout the city where people can hear from different panelists on all kinds of things, marketing and taxes and setting up a corporation, things like that. We try to do everything that we can to support small businesses and businesses that are just starting out. But then on the other side of that, we do also regulate businesses. We enforce the Municipal Code of Chicago, which is the city of Chicago's set of rules for all different kinds of things. But as it relates to business affairs and consumer protection, we have different teams enforcing the laws that apply to businesses and business owners. So we have all kinds of different teams that perform that regulation, teams of investigators, and then attorneys that prosecute citations. So everything from your regular retail brick and mortar stores, so those selling tobacco, public vehicles like taxi cabs and Ubers, liquor establishments, things like that. Those are all regulated by Business Affairs and Consumer Protection. And so where I fall and where my consumer fraud team falls within that is that we are devoted to complaints that are submitted by individuals. A lot of the other teams do BACP-led enforcement. And so that's BACP going out to brick and mortar shops to make sure that they are in compliance with all of the regulations for that industry, that they have an active business license, that they're posting it, that they're following all the rules. But for the consumer fraud team, we are, for the very vast majority of cases, we are completely consumer-led. So that means that when anyone has an issue with a business in the city of Chicago, when you call 311 to file a complaint against a business, that's going to come to my team and I. So there is a team of a handful of investigators, maybe around 4 or 5 investigators. They're all department veterans. They have a lot of experience and they investigate all different kinds of consumer complaints. So when we get a consumer fraud complaint, The first thing that we do with it is to make sure that we have authority to prosecute it. Like I said, we get all different kinds of complaints. Any complaint from an individual against a business is going to come to our department, and the majority of the time we can handle it. However, there are certain areas or industries where the state exclusively has the authority to regulate those industries. It's most common with kind of professional industries like, doctors and lawyers and accountants, things like that. So if someone files a complaint against those, we still look at them and then we refer them to the appropriate agency because the city of Chicago doesn't have legal authority to act on those. And then the other prong that we have our complaints go through to make sure that it's something that we can actually handle is to make sure that we actually have jurisdiction. So there has to be some kind of tie to the city of Chicago. Either the business is located in Chicago or we have a consumer that resides in Chicago, or just that the harm actually occurs within the city of Chicago. If we have a business that's outside the city, a complainant outside the city, and there wasn't anything that actually occurred within the city of Chicago, then we're not going to have the jurisdiction to be able to handle that kind of complaint. However, again, we will refer it to the appropriate agency. So as long as we kind of meet those two things, we have authority and we have jurisdiction, the case will be assigned to an investigator. They collect evidence from both sides. They talk to the complainant, they talk to the business, compile receipts, any contracts, any kind of documentation, and they review everything to make sure that the business was in compliance with the municipal code. If they weren't in compliance, then they would issue citations or tickets that would be heard at the Department of Administrative Hearings, where then they would get to meet with me. So at the Department of Administrative Hearings, that's where these cases are resolved either through the case settling. The business would come into compliance, agree to pay a fine. Sometimes we seek restitution or a refund on behalf of the consumer. And then the case is over with. They agree to pay a fine. Alternatively, there is an opportunity for, if the businesses don't feel that the violations occurred, then they have a right to a hearing. And so we do contested hearings or trials at the Department of Administrative Hearings as well. So you can see on the right-hand side there, our January to September 2021 numbers. We've received well over 4,000 311 complaints, have done over 7,000 investigations, and then 100 plus business education webinars and expos. That is kind of more on the licensing and outreach side. Candidly, for the consumer fraud team, the majority of the cases that we handle are more service-based. So our most common case type is going to be home repair and motor vehicle repair, but we also deal with all different kinds of mostly service-based industries. So dry cleaners, travel agents, electronics stores, things along those lines. We don't see too many complaints against kind of the big box retail stores. However, part of what the consumer fraud team does is to meet regularly with different government agencies, and we discuss all of the different kind of trends that we're seeing within consumer fraud, the different ways that we are seeing people get scammed out of their hard-earned dollars. So we are really going to be discussing mostly kind of on the scam end, as opposed to brick and mortar. We don't see a whole ton of issues. We'll talk about it briefly. So going into that, kind of reminders why when you're at a retail shop in an actual brick and mortar store, there's just a couple of things that I would ask you to keep in mind as you are, as you're doing your holiday shopping. So the first one relating to store credit cards, you want to be careful because you can get yourself in some kind of hot water. There isn't necessarily anything, these aren't a scam by any means, but before you decide to open up a store credit card, I would have you ask yourself, how many other store cards or credit cards in general are you managing? It can be pretty easy for these things to slip through the cracks. You miss a payment, and can mess up your credit and affect your life in other ways. So make sure that if you are going to be signing up for a store credit card, that you realize that you can handle it, and then to know what all of the terms are. So a lot of stores, especially if you're making a kind of a big ticket purchase, will offer something like 12 months of no interest. So if there is something like that, a deferred interest promotion, you really have to consider whether or not you would be able to make all of the payments before the promotional period is over. Because if not, then you are going to be charged what the interest would have been since day one. And so for a big purchase, that could actually wind up being hundreds of dollars. So know what the interest rate is, know that this is going to be a hard inquiry on your credit, and know also that sometimes, especially with the big ticket purchases and the deferred interest promotion, it could be not necessarily through a store, but through a third party bank. And so you want to just make sure that you're reviewing all of those terms to make sure that you fully understand exactly what you're getting yourself into. The next thing that I would want you to be aware of is to check store policies before you buy anything. The city of Chicago does not require retailers to have a refund policy or a return policy, but they are required to notify consumers what their policy is. And so a store has every right to not accept a return, or to not allow any kind of refund, but they do have to be upfront about that. You will want to make sure before you make any kind of purchase to know what all of their policies are. Know what kind of condition an item has to be in before you're allowed to return it. So a lot of stores require that something be unused or unopened, or for clothing items that it's unworn. So make sure that you're aware of that before you buy and use anything, if you might think that you might need to return it. Take a look at what the time frame is. Some stores are going to be 30 or 60 or 90. Some can be as short as 7. Again, stores in Chicago have the right to determine what their individual policy is going to be. And then finally, restocking fees. Again, for kind of bigger ticket items, there could be restocking fees, things like TVs. I think I've seen it for jewelry as well, where if you make a large purchase, they do also have the right to charge you like a 10%, what they call restocking fee. And again, those are things that are allowed. They just have to be publicly posted. If you don't see a policy that's posted in a store, feel free to ask, but then also feel free to file a complaint, because that is certainly something that my consumer fraud team and I would be interested in knowing. And then finally, make sure that you keep all of your receipts. A lot of times they're going to be required in order to obtain any kind of refund or exchange. So moving on to gift cards. The state of Illinois and both the federal government have passed laws within, it's been kind of a while now, but before that, consumers were leaving literally billions of dollars on the table. Someone would purchase a gift card for someone else, the gift card would expire, and then it couldn't be used. And so whatever the purchaser paid for that, the stores were allowed to just keep. And so in I think 2005 was the first time the state of Illinois passed any laws relating to gift cards, but essentially they're not allowed to pocket that money anymore. But the specific way that these gift cards are regulated is going to depend on essentially who is issuing the gift card. So first we'll talk about these individual store gift cards and stored value cards. So this is going to be like your Target or your Walmart. And then stored value cards are things like if you go to Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts, where you add money onto either a card or into like a digital wallet. Those are individual single places where those cards can be used. So as of 2008, there's no fees allowed of any kind on store gift cards and those stored value cards. And then as far as expiration dates, there has to be either no expiration date, or if there is an expiration date, it can't be sooner than 5 years from the purchase. And if there is going to be an expiration date, the the store is no longer allowed to keep that money if it doesn't get used. Instead, it has to be sent to the state of Illinois. I don't know if you've ever seen the Illinois Treasury website where you can look at unclaimed funds, but essentially the stores have to send those unused gift cards to the state of Illinois. The problem is that most people aren't registering their gift cards. And so there really isn't a way to go and claim it from the state of Illinois if you didn't register it. I think that the 5-year expiration date and then having to send it to the state of Illinois is a hurdle that most retailers and big box places in Illinois don't want to deal with. And so I think the very vast majority of places have gone the route of not having any expiration date. But if you get a store gift card and you do see that 5-year expiration date, look at their policies, try to go to their website and see if it's possible to register it to yourself. So that way, if you don't use it and you kind of forget about it and then you find it later, you can go and make your claim with the state of Illinois unclaimed property website. Moving on to the next kind of gift card that we see is those issued by credit card companies or malls. So these are like the Visa gift cards, MasterCard, Amex does them as well as mall gift cards. I think I've seen these at outlet malls. But there are separate regulations that apply to them. They can expire after 5 years. They're not required to be sent to the state of Illinois as unclaimed property. An inactivity fee can be charged after 1 year, but the charge can only happen once a month. And then other fees are allowed as long as they're disclosed to the consumer. Other fees that could be charged are things like a balance inquiry fee. So if you have to call and find out what your balance is, they could theoretically charge for that. Or if you misplace the gift card and you want them to send you another one, that is something else that they would be allowed to charge a fee for, as long as they notify you of that fee in advance. There are certain types of cards where these protections don't cover them. And so that's promotional, loyalty, and reward cards. So we talked about Starbucks cards. And so the amount that you add onto the card is going to, there's not going to be fee or an expiration, but the stars that you get when you make a purchase that can be used towards money off or for a free drink, those can expire. Same with any kind of reward card like that, where you're making a purchase and then getting something as kind of a bonus. So, you know, your Old Navy cash, your Kohl's cash, those things are allowed to expire because it isn't, you aren't adding the money to a gift card. It's a reward for a purchase that you're already making. There's a couple other kind of minor exceptions that also are not protected under state or federal gift card regulations. And those are going to be if an employer or a nonprofit is purchasing gift cards at a discount, then that is not protected under these laws. And then gift cards for a food item. I'm not talking about if you buy a gift card to a restaurant or if you buy a gift card to a grocery store, those would still be protected. But if you get a gift certificate for a pie or something along those lines for an actual food item, then these laws don't apply to that specific scenario. So let's talk a little bit more about gift cards and kind of the issues that we see with them. So you can see this photo, depending on whether you're on a computer or a laptop, it might be a little bit small, but I just wanted to bring your attention to a couple of ways they can be tampered with when we're dealing with gift cards that are in store, accessible, and not behind a counter. So on the left-hand side, it's depicting a gift card. You can see, or maybe you can't, but the security code was scratched off to reveal the security code. And so the account information is all completely visible. So the card number as well as the security number is visible. So once that's activated, and then the scammer, it can take a photo of that or copy down the information. And then if that gift card gets activated in store, they would have access to everything that they would need to steal all of that money. And it's a pretty sophisticated operation. They aren't just sitting there typing in a million different numbers of different gift cards that they've stolen. They can create programs or bots that run these programs to constantly search to see whether or not the gift cards have been activated. And then on the right-hand side, we see there's a barcode, and I don't know if you can see kind of behind it, there's another barcode. But essentially what the scam is in that gift card on the right is that the scammer printed out a piece of paper that has a barcode that goes to their account. So, and then they slipped it into the gift card. So what would happen then is when the cashier goes to scan that gift card and the victim goes to add $50 or whatever, that $50 would be applied to the scammer's account. It isn't going on, the barcode for the actual card that's in there. So a couple tips to avoid these things would be to either purchase your gift cards online from the retailer itself, going to target.com. And there isn't anything necessarily wrong with Target. Any store could be the victim of this if they have their gift cards out. There's nothing, that makes Target particularly susceptible to this. But go to whatever retailer website. Usually you can put in an email address. I know it's not as, printing out a piece of paper may not be as pretty as some of these gift cards, but it will be a little bit safer. Or alternatively, if you go to a store that has the gift cards behind a counter, that is going to be a little safer as well. But if you are going to purchase a gift card that was kind of left out in the open, then make sure that you inspect it a little bit. Run your finger over the barcode, make sure it's not just like a piece of paper that was printed out and has a fake barcode on it. You can try to look a little bit and see whether or not the gift card had been tampered with to avoid the situation on the left. Moving on to kind of our next area, delivery scams. Now more than ever, people are shopping, doing their holiday shopping online. And so it can be pretty lucrative for scammers to pose as FedEx or UPS, USPS to try to get access to either payment information or personal information that can be sold. And so we see these come in through, either email, text, or phone call. So you can see kind of on the bottom right-hand side that we have a situation where someone received a text message claiming to be from FedEx with a tracking code. So in this case, a lot of times what we'll see, first of all, this should raise alarm bells for a couple different reasons. That link is pretty suspicious looking. e3fmr.info is a strange looking link. Alternatively, if you were to Google that tracking code, it doesn't come up with a real tracking code. Maybe this person didn't even order anything from FedEx. So these should all raise alarm bells. If this person clicked this link, what likely happens is they'll say that they need to either set up a alternative delivery and try to get personal information, your address or things like that. Or they'll say that they need to pay an extra $2, that the amount that was paid for the delivery was insufficient for whatever reason. So then they get your payment info, and it's probably not going to be just the $2 that they claim. They're going to scam you out of probably hundreds of dollars more. So if you get something like this, make sure that you ask yourself, did I send something through this means? Am I expecting something through, FedEx or whoever's contacting me? And also, all of those companies require you to provide your phone number if you're going to opt in for text messages. So if you don't remember setting up text messages for a certain company, then it's likely going to be a scam. So don't click on any of these links. If you think that you're receiving something and it's kind of raising red flags for you, go to a browser, just type in, your FedEx.com or USPS.com, see if you can find it through that, or look for on those websites, look for a customer service phone number. Try Googling. If you Google a tracking number, most of them will just automatically come up in Google. So avoid clicking on any information or relying on any information that you're getting in a text message, in an email, in a phone call. There's no harm in hanging up and calling back at a number that you look up yourself. Moving on, looking at what it might look like if you get emailed with a delivery scam. So this one is claiming to be from the United States Postal Service. There's, again, another couple things that should raise some red flags to you. Looking at the top left where it says USA Postal Service, they don't call themselves that. The email that it's being sent from, supporting US at us-trackingsupport.com, is not the web address for the United States Postal Service, as well as the photo that they uploaded. It's not a USPS logo, but even if it was, the email is suspicious, the name is suspicious. If you were to click on this link, again, it would probably take you to something that's either asking you for your address or other personal information, or to ask you to pay a specific amount so that they can deliver it and then get access to all of your payment information. So if you're ever unsure, again, contact USPS directly, looking at contact information from their website, or this check this now box that you see would have linked to something. So you can hover over it. If you're on a computer, hover over it with your mouse and take a look at where it's actually directing you to. I can guarantee that it would not be anything related to USPS.com. It would be some kind of bogus link. If you're on your phone, I know if you have an Apple iPhone, you can press and hold and it will show a preview of what the web address is so that you don't have to actually click on it. Sometimes just the act of clicking on something, depending on what it is, it could open a website, or it could download a file to your computer, malware, viruses, things that can log your keystrokes, so that anything that you were to type into your computer would basically be turned over to these scammers. So always check to look at the link before you actually click on it, or before you download anything. Let's talk about secondhand marketplaces. So this is going to be like your Craigslist or your Facebook marketplace. A lot of people use these during the holiday season, either to offload some items. Kids have a million toys, and during this time of year, they tend to get a whole bunch more. Or if you're looking for something, a nice camera that's used, something like that, whether you're going to be a buyer or a seller, make sure that if you are going to meet someone from one of these marketplaces, choose a public location like a police station. Go during the day. Try to bring a friend or a family member if you can. And then if you're selling, there are a bunch of different scams to be aware of. If you're trying to offload some of your stuff, raise some cash for the holiday season, um, make sure that you look at your any immediate response, immediate messages. Uh, really take a second look at those and be kind of wary of them. Scammers use bots or programs to crawl these marketplaces to give them these leads, because if they can be the first person to respond to your message, they think that they'll be more likely for their scam to succeed. And you can see how that would work, right? You're trying to sell something, the very first, you get a response immediately, you're excited to get rid of it. And so that can kind of, you know, lower your susceptibility or increase your susceptibility to fall for these scams because you're excited to complete the transaction. So I would demand that if I were selling something on one of these secondhand marketplaces, demand cash only. Things like Zelle or Venmo or Cash App are really intended for two people that know each other, PayPal friends and family as well. So when you're dealing with strangers, it can be a little bit iffy. Cash is going to be safest. And then again, as a seller, there's a couple things that you should be aware of, especially when people are trying to use these electronic forms of payment. So first, if someone is wanting to use Zelle after you've made it very clear that you only want to deal with cash, that's going to be a red flag. We'll take a look at this business account Zelle scam that's been going around. Essentially, if you are wanting to sell something, a camera or something like that for $800, they'll ask you for your contact information to be able to send you that payment. And then they'll send you a message saying, oh, hey, I got this weird thing back from Zelle saying that you're not a business account. And since the amount is such and such price, that you're required to have this business account. So you need to upgrade. That doesn't exist on Zelle. There are no business accounts on Zelle. It's a bank to bank kind of thing. So there are no business accounts. What they're trying to, what the scam boils down to, is that they say, well, I'll send you an extra $400 to cover the. In the example, we'll see that's how much it is. I'll send you the $400 fee to upgrade the business account, in addition to the price that we settled on for this item. And then you just send me the $400 back. And that way it'll unlock the business account for you. We'll be able to deal with whatever. And, you'll get your money and you just send me back the $400. And what really happens is that they never send you the amount for the item plus the $400. You just send them the $400, and there's really no way to reverse it because, like I said, Zelle, Cash App, Venmo is really only meant to be used between people that know each other, and those transactions are completely irreversible. So far, there aren't a lot of regulations on those companies in terms of warning you. If you're sending a specific amount of money, and in terms of consumer protection, there really isn't a whole lot that the state, federal government has put in place to protect people from these kinds of scams, because again, they're really meant to be used between individuals that know each other. So another red flag, not being able to meet in person. We often see kind of long-winded responses for reasons why someone can't meet up with you, and they'll either ask if their sibling or aunt or whoever friend can meet you, and then they will want to use something like Zelle or Cash App or whatever, or they'll offer to have a courier like FedEx or UPS or USPS. They say that they'll send cash with someone that works for one of those companies, and then ask that that you send the item with them. but those companies will never agree to do that. They are not allowed to handle cash for people. They are in the business of, delivering packages, and so they don't take on these kinds of services. And so what the scam is then is that they'll get your contact information, say that they're arranging for them to meet you, and then you'll get an email that claims to be from FedEx or UPS or USPS, and it'll demand that you purchase some kind of insurance because it's dealing in cash. But you're not really buying any kind of insurance that's covering the transaction. You're just giving your payment information to a scammer who is going to, milk you for, everything that they can. And then finally, you may receive messages from individuals offering to pay more than the price that you listed the item for. And again, this is just to get you to put your guard down and to agree to either pay in a way that you didn't really have them pay in a way that you didn't really want to accept, or to get you to not meet in person or something along those lines. The longer that these individuals can kind of keep you on the line for, the more messages that they send, the more of a chance they have of getting you to put your guard down. And so if you set very specific rules for how you want a transaction to go, and they're demanding that it go another way, walk away at that point. If they're not willing to do it on your terms, then they probably aren't really interested in a legitimate transaction anyway. So I would consider blocking, deleting them, and moving on with somebody else. So this is what the email looks like, that business account upgrade from Zelle that we talked about. The email looks like it comes from Zelle. The issue, so at the top left where you see www.zellepay.com, that's what the scammer put in as their name under when they created this account. Unfortunately, I don't have the actual email address that it was sent from, but it wouldn't have been sent from zellepay.com. It would have been something really wonky, but they can set their name as whatever they want. If they were trying to be FedEx, they could set the first name as FedEx, or they could set it as USPS. They can set whatever they want that to be. It doesn't mean that it's coming from a legitimate account. So anytime you receive an email from someone and it's unsolicited, take a look at what the actual email address is. Don't rely on just the name. So you can kind of see the kind of inner workings, like I talked about, where the amount that they're dealing with was $800. The supposed upgrade amount is $400. I don't know what this compensation fee was supposed to be, but the scammer is basically saying, oh, there's $1,250 in your account, but you don't have a business account, so you don't have access to these funds, but we're going to hold it for you until you refund the $400 to this person. Again, huge red flag. Don't ever send someone money because you think that you're going to get money in return. 100%, you're just going to be out that money. So that's what it looks like. So be on the lookout for that if you ever do sell anything on these secondhand marketplaces. Moving on to banking scams. So scammers can spoof your bank's telephone number to make it look like the bank is contacting you. So you can see on the right-hand side here, text messages that were sent to someone, and it looks a whole lot like what it really looks like when your bank's fraud department contacts you to ask you whether you spent a certain amount of money, down to the reply stop to cancel these texts. And so in this case, what happened to this individual was, so they spoof the number. So it looks like they're getting contacted by their bank. They get this fraud department message. They respond no. By responding no, the scammer knows that there is a live person on the other end, and then they send this message, a phone call has been generated to you. And so then the scammer calls. And in this case, what happened was the scammer was able to make the victim believe that they were requesting a refund from Zelle. Specifically, they were saying that the phone number, they were giving the victim the scammer's telephone number, but they were saying that it was a 10-digit like complaint code or something like that. And then when they went to put in the amount of how much they'd be sending, they were saying, oh, well, this is how much the refund that you're requesting is. And so when they hit send, it sends as $1,500 being sent to that scammer's telephone number. Alternatively, another way that this can come in is as an email, an overdraft notice, and it's going to look just like messages from your bank or from your credit card company, and it'll ask you to go to a website and log in. The website will look legitimate, but just be on the lookout for, again, hover over any links before you actually go to them. You'll find that if it's a scammer, the link that you're going to isn't actually your bank's website, and it could just be off by a single digit. It could be that they use a capital I instead of an L. There could be dashes in it instead. All of these things, when you take a quick look, it looks legitimate, but really you're sending your information. You're going to a scammer website, and when you put in your payment information, your contact information, personal information, you're turning all of that over to a scammer. Okay, I think that's all we've got on this one. So just make sure that if, again, any kind of unsolicited contact, don't respond if you're unsure. You can always, pull your bank card out, pull your credit card out, look at the number on the back. Don't call the number that comes up if you receive this text message, because it can just be forwarded back to the scammer. So make sure that you actually dial the number on the back of the card, or go to your bank's website, type it in yourself. If you have, a mobile app, or if you do any banking online, log in to your bank, look for the customer service number there, call them there and see what's really going on. Did they send you a fraud alert? Is there this Zelle transaction? And see. And that's a good way to confirm that you're not going to kind of follow these scammers' tracks. All right, going on to kind of shady online retailers. We'll have some examples in just a minute, but if you are ever on Facebook or Instagram, or if you ever search for something that you're thinking about buying, you'll often find yourself getting targeted ads for those items within a couple hours or a couple days. And so what I'm referring to here by these kind of shady online retailers are these web-based retailers. And a lot of times, they don't have a substantial seller history. They may be selling items that are from an overseas warehouse. They're marking these goods up really high. It could take a really long time for you to actually receive them. So using drop shipping. Drop shipping is when a business doesn't have their inventory kind of physically in their business or on site. They are ordering things from a warehouse, and the warehouse ships it directly to the consumer, so the business never actually takes possession. And that is, technically a legitimate business type to be able to use drop shipping. But as a consumer, a lot of times the goods aren't really as high quality as they appear. There'll be really, kind of beautiful looking advertisements, but what you actually receive doesn't really look anything like the item that you ordered, or it could take a really long time. Since a lot of these drop shippers are shipping from warehouses in China, it could take a lot longer now that we're accustomed to, 2-day shipping from Amazon and whoever else. So know that it could take a really long time if you do purchase something from an ad on social media. The flags that'll kind of let you know that you might be dealing with someone who's drop shipping from a warehouse overseas is that they'll use a shortened URL to hide where their domain actually goes. They might try to claim that they're massive sales and slashing prices, but really the items aren't very high quality. And then finally, when you deal with these, the customer service usually isn't very good. They may not have a return policy. If they do have a return policy, they may make you jump through a bunch of hoops. They may require you to pay to ship the return. And if it's going back to some overseas warehouse, the shipping could be pretty extensive. So you see the Ray-Ban ad. I think I've seen this one all over my Facebook and Instagram for, I think, years now. And it's not legitimate. Ray-Ban has never done a 90% off discount for everything. I blacked out the website because it did not go to the official Ray-Ban website. It was something really similar, used dashes. It could have looked like the Ray-Ban website, but these kinds of too good to be true offers usually are. So be on the lookout for anything that is, they're asking you to act really quickly. And here you see the advertisement 24 hours only at an unbeatable price, 90% off, $25 for a pair of Ray-Bans. And so that entices people to this website. Whether or not, if you actually ordered from this scam website, I don't know whether you would ever receive it, but what you would be getting would definitely not be Ray-Bans. So I just wanted to give an example of kind of this drop shipper, social media business advertisements, what that might look like. And so on the left, you can see an advertisement from Instagram for some men's clothing. It looks pretty decent, linen, summer clothing. If you look at their caption at the bottom, we're sorry that our handmade workshop failed to survive this disaster. We decided to sell most of the rest of the clothing at a lower price. So they're claiming that the items are handmade. They have a reason why they're, slashing prices, or a purported reason why they're slashing prices, and then they send you to a shortened URL. So I did a quick reverse image search, and I was able to find the exact item, the exact photo was actually being sold by Alibaba, which is a Chinese warehouse, and it's being sold for $8.50. You could go to Alibaba if you want the shirt on the left, and go to Alibaba and find that exact shirt being sold for $8.50. And so, and then the quality that you would get, you can imagine it probably doesn't really look anything like what's in the photo. It's probably going to take a couple weeks to get here, but it certainly isn't it's not handmade by that shop like they claimed. It's really coming from a warehouse. So to avoid being scammed by these kinds of shady online retailers, pay with a credit card so you can dispute the charge. You can actually look up website domains to see how long they've been registered for, who owns the website. If a business is claiming that they've been a store for 25 years, and then you go and look up the website domain and they've only been around for 3 months, then you know that they're probably trying to take advantage of consumers. You can look for street addresses on the business's website. A lot of times you're probably not going to find anything, or the street address may be to something like a UPS store, maybe a PO box, could be a vacant field. So search for on Google Maps or Apple Maps or something like that. If there's any addresses on the website, take a look and see if it actually goes to a brick and mortar store, and if so, it might be a little bit more legitimate than one of these kind of drop shipping companies that are jacking up prices on cheap stuff. You can also look for HTTPS and the lock symbol in the web address bar. And so what that is it confirms that the website is secure, that your payment information is encrypted and not susceptible to any kind of hackers or things like that. But make sure that if you are searching for that, that it's actually in the web address bar. Sometimes these shady websites will have that lock logo and it'll be in the body of the web page itself. And that doesn't mean that it's secure. It has to be in the web address bar. So there's really no substitute for that. Know what the return policy is. Again, with these drop shipping, where you're ordering from overseas warehouses, it can be really difficult. And you may have a really limited amount of time. So if a store gives you 30 days from purchase, but it takes 2 or 3 weeks to actually get here, then the amount of time that you have to try it on and figure out whether you want to keep it is really minimized. And so just know that like the back of your hand, the return policy. Alternatively, you can, or in addition to all that, you can look at independent reviews for the website. Trustpilot is reliable. They have information on different websites and can tell you whether or not the website is trustworthy. Better Business Bureau also maintains that kind of information. And then if you are purchasing from kind of an unknown web-based retailer, don't buy toys or health supplements or cosmetics because these things can be coming from places where they don't have the same safety standards as the US. And so toys could be made with lead paint. So if kids are putting them in their mouth, that could be potentially harmful. With health supplements, best case scenario would be that there isn't anything in it that is actually going to work for what they're claiming it does. Worst case scenario is that there's stuff that's actually harmful in them, and they're not going to be regulated by the FDA or anything else. And then cosmetics, there are a lot of different pigments and glitters that aren't safe to be used around your eyes or around your face. And so if you buy cosmetics from these, there's really no guarantee that they're actually safe to be used in those areas. And the pigments can cause irritation, or they use unsafe like eye glitter, and the glitter can fall in your eye and scratch your cornea and cause a whole load of problems. So if you are going to go with one of those kind of advertised items that you're seeing on Facebook or Instagram, avoid those purchases and then go through these steps and make sure that who you're buying from is actually reliable. Okay, in 2021, we saw a bunch of people reporting these fraudulent order confirmations from Amazon, but it could really happen to anybody. So you'll see on the right-hand side an email that purports to be from Amazon, allowing you to track your package. And there's a couple red flags that would help you understand that this isn't actually coming from Amazon. This is a phishing attempt, or again, an attempt to get you to pay more for an item to be shipped to provide your payment information. And so this is actually kind of two separate photos. So on the top part, you see the first red box. The email is coming from help@markyourtrails.com instead of Amazon. So that would be the first red flag. Second red flag, the approximate arrival, December 19, 18. Look for any kind of typos. You wouldn't see that in an actual Amazon order confirmation email. So slight misspellings are going to be another big red flag. And then the track your package looks just like when it comes from Amazon. But if you were to hover over that, then you can see on the bottom the actual link that it would take you to if you were to click that, mrcosmetic.com. So if you were to actually go to that link, please don't, but it may ask for payment information or personal information. So if you get an email with an order confirmation, ask yourself, did I actually order an item? Did I order an item from Amazon? Did I order this item from Amazon? Is this actually coming from Amazon? Are there weird misspellings that, should make me suspicious of where this is really coming from? And then before you click anything, before you download anything, hover over it and see where they're trying to take you. If you do fall for one of these scams, there's a couple things that you should know. First is that there's something called a recovery scam. So after you fall for a scam, your phone number, your email, you may get more phone calls and emails or text messages from individuals who are claiming that they can help you get back the money that you lost to the scammer. Don't give them any money. Don't pay them. File a complaint. We'll have plenty of information on where you can file a complaint, who to file a complaint to. A government agency is never, ever going to ask for money to help you or to file a complaint. We don't ask for money from you, even if we're trying to seek a refund on your behalf. I'm never going to ask for anything from you. Neither is any regulator. Any attempt for someone to help you and they're asking you to pay up front, just don't do it. Don't ever pay money to try to get money back. They just know that you are susceptible to a scam and are trying to further take advantage of you. They literally will not stop until you stop responding. And falling for one scam does increase the likelihood that you're going to continue to be contacted. If they know that one method worked on you, then they may try something else. So if you fall for, a delivery scam, maybe they'll try a bank fraud scam on you next. Once they know that there's a human on the other end of the line, they can keep trying, and they will keep trying. And so I would recommend that you ignore any unsolicited contact. And if you think that it might be coming from a legitimate source, if you really think that it's FedEx or your bank or whoever trying to contact you, contact your bank yourself by calling the number on the back of the card. Go to the FedEx website, find their customer service number, and call that number. So some main takeaways to remember: pay by credit card. They offer more protections than debit cards. And so you can always do a dispute if you run into any issues. Make sure you're looking at your credit card and bank statements to look for unrecognized transactions. If you're going to do a transaction using a secondary marketplace like Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, and it's between you and someone else, make sure that you're using cash only. Again, ignore all unsolicited messages. And I know that kind of sounds really cold and kind of sad, but I think that people would be really surprised by how innocuous these initial messages can seem. Just to get away from holiday shopping for a minute, there's two really common scams that come in as wrong numbers. So you get a text message and it's someone saying, "Oh, hey, Sarah, this is Holly. I'm making chicken for dinner tonight. Do you want to come over?" And so I think any reasonable person would say, "Oh, let me just respond and say, hey, this isn't who you meant. Sorry, you got the wrong number." And there's two different scams that can actually come out of that are actually incredibly common. So the first one would be a crypto scam. And so how that would usually go, they'll get your message, "Oh, this is the wrong person." And they'll respond, "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry." And if they can keep you on the line, keep you texting, eventually they get to a point where they say, "Hey, I'm actually an investor in cryptocurrency. And because I inconvenienced you and I really appreciate you taking the time to tell me that I didn't have the right person. If you're interested, here's how you can invest in cryptocurrency as well. And maybe right now it sounds silly, but when you kind of build a rapport, these people will build a rapport with an individual and make them trust and believe that they're actually trying to give them legitimate advice on investing. And cryptocurrency scams are, I believe the FTC has said that they are the number one way people are being scammed out of their money is through these cryptocurrency scams, all coming from, one message saying, hey, do you want to come over for dinner? And then the other scam that we see would be a romance scam. And so it would be substantially similar. Someone tries to lure you into a relationship where you're sending, money or whatever to someone, and it's all based on finding out that there is another human on the other end of the line, and trying to get you to put your guard down, and make you think that they're just trying to help you or build a relationship with you. And it all comes out of that one little text message. So really, I would urge everybody to ignore unsolicited calls, texts, emails, and other messages. And if you do think that it may be legitimate, again, hang up, call back to a confirmed number. I would urge you, go to a website directly. So if you're looking for Amazon's customer service number, I would say go to Amazon.com and look at their number from there. Don't Google Amazon customer service number, because when you Google something or you use any search engine, those aren't websites that Google is recommending. They're showing you the results for whoever has paid the most to be at the top of the list. And so there have been instances where someone registers or pays Google to come up as a top result for Amazon customer service number, but it's really a scammer. And so people Google that, find this number, call that number, and then provide payment details and payment information or other personal information to that number, really believing that they're talking to Amazon. So go to the website. Don't necessarily trust what you're seeing in the top results in any search engine. Too good to be true offers usually are too good to be true. Don't fall for them. Don't ever send money to get money. Don't pay people in gift cards. That's kind of just a general. Don't know that you'll run into that in holiday shopping, but dealing with scams, someone that deals with scams frequently, it is a common factor that we see people asking, scammers asking that you pay an amount in gift cards. And then finally, be aware of high pressure tactics that ask you to act quickly. So the 24-hour sale with the delivery ones, we saw that they were saying that you needed to take action because they won't try to deliver after 24 hours. Anyone that's trying to get you to do something really quickly is preying on you, and they don't want you to think about what you're doing, because if you think about it, then you'll realize that they're trying to take advantage of you. So as a result of our consumer fraud cases in 2021, we entered 402 judgments, $4.3 million in fines, and got $80,000 in refunds to complainants after they suffered from consumer fraud at the hands of bad businesses. So if you do need to, file a complaint, we talked about kind of these jurisdiction issues. So if the business is in Chicago or you're in Chicago, then you should file a complaint with the city of Chicago, and you can do that by calling 311, using the Shy 311 mobile app, or visiting the website. If you're not in the city of Chicago, or the business is not in the city of Chicago, you can file a complaint with the Illinois Attorney General. And then if you have text or phone or web-based scams, these can be difficult for either the city of Chicago or the state of Illinois to tie to Chicago or Illinois. And so you should consider contacting the Federal Trade Commission. They investigate these kind of web, text, phone-based scams. And so their contact information is there as well. And that concludes my presentation today. I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Looks like you have questions in the chat box.
Okay, 1 minute.
Would a property, you see them or you want me to read them to you?
All right, 1 second. Okay, I got them. Let me just scroll up here. Property management company be considered a business to file a complaint on? As long as they're in the city of Chicago, yes, you can file a complaint. Know that when it comes to landlord tenant things, the city of Chicago has pretty limited authority, but I would always err on the side of filing a complaint. If we can't, then we'll give you resource. If we can't proceed with it, then we will give resources on where you can turn to. If there's another government agency that can help you, if there's a tenant organization. So it really depends. I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of it, but property management companies are a business that are regulated by the city of Chicago. Okay. Is there any funding that helps to reach the goals of helping to reach inspection goals? This is a little bit outside of my purview. You know, our investigators operate based on, you know, there's a budget season that happens every year. We operate within the means of what our budget allows. If you feel like BACP is doing a really good job and we need more resources, you can contact your alderman and let them know that BACP needs more help, so that we can have our budget increased, and hire more investigators to be able to handle these kinds of things. It looks like there may have been an issue, could not see the full screen. Is there a way to get the transcript and see the full screen version of this? So this is, and someone couldn't see the right-hand side at all. This is going to be uploaded to YouTube. Stella, I think, can chime in just a minute, but it'll be uploaded and you should be able to see everything and be able to, I don't know if there's a transcript, but I know that there was closed captioning. So yes, everything that I talked about, the entire presentation will be uploaded to BACP's YouTube. Someone scammed and hacked through Facebook, and they used my page to do the same. Oh, hold on, sorry. Some more messages came in it. They didn't do anything. How do you handle that? If I would file a complaint with the FTC, it can be really hard to track down where these scammers are coming from to tie them to the city of Chicago or the state of Illinois. But the FTC, as a federal agency, is able to prosecute no matter where that individual may be located. So let me see. Reportfraud.ftc.gov is their website. Again, this will all be uploaded to BACP's YouTube. Okay. Takeaways to remember, make sure that you check that out. possible to have the presentation offered in police district, reach out to BACP Outreach. I think BACP would be happy to give this presentation again. Can you file a complaint against a bank? Yes, you absolutely can. You can file a complaint with BACP, but there is kind of, I guess I would say, like dual jurisdiction over banks. So know that, again, BACP might be a little bit more limited since they kind of fall under that accountant, professional, doctor, lawyer area where the city of Chicago is preempted. But we do also regulate financial institutions. It really just depends on the scope of the complaint. So if you're not sure whether BACP is able to handle a certain type of complaint, then just err on the side of filing with us. And if we can deal with it, then we will. And if we can't, we'll make sure that it gets to the right place. And I see someone mentioning on Facebook Marketplace, scams say they want you to send you a code to verify you're real. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Again, just be very suspicious of anyone who doesn't want to meet in person or is asking you to provide any kind of code or information. Those should all raise red flags to you. And I think that's all that I saw. So thank you, everybody. I know this went a little bit long, but thank you. And can someone file a complaint for a disabled senior citizen? Yes, absolutely. Complaints can be filed on behalf of another individual. Just call 311. There will be a complaint form that our department will send, and you can help them fill it out, or you can fill it out on their behalf. That's fine with us. Complaints can even be made anonymously if you really prefer, although I would urge against it just because when we receive an anonymous complaint, if we have follow-up questions, we aren't able to contact you. And so we're really just limited to what you provide us. And it isn't always enough for us to be able to build a case. So you can file anonymously if you'd like, but really would urge you to provide us your information so that we can make sure that we do have everything that we need to be able to build a strong case to go after whoever scammed you.
Thank you. If you are a part of the BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program and would like to receive credit for today's webinar, please send an email to bacpoutreach@cityofchicago.org. Again, it's bacpoutreach@cityofchicago.org. To join the program, please send an email requesting to participate in the program to that same email, bacpoutreach@cityofchicago.org. To learn more about our upcoming webinars, please visit chicago.gov/business education. Thank you again and have a great weekend.